right now, the old version of you probably doesn't fit anymore, but the new chapter hasn't fully landed yet. And that is why you feel lost. It's like you can't move backwards, but you can't clearly see forwards either. Emotionally, this phase is so hard. It's uncomfortable. Your mind wants clarity, your nervous system wants safety, and deep down, you know you want more. There's so much to get into today around human connection, emotional health, inner child healing. But before we do, I want to ask, what do we need to understand about you and your story before diving into the pod?
I think the most important thing that I can say, and it's related to that quote, is that point, what you just described right there, is exactly where I'm at in my life. And I'm definitely not coming from this of a place of having like over here, up here, having it all figured out. But I am coming from a place of navigating through that messy middle that you just talked about. And I guess I'm just so excited to have this conversation with you because I know changing veins, you're all about that, where you're just letting go of certain aspects of your life and stepping into other ones. So I guess it's just to know that that's the angle I'm going to be coming from everything with. And yeah, it's the chapter that I'm in right now.
Amazing. And that, you know what, that's one of the reasons that I wanted you in the show is because you're living it. It's so easy to have, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to have those people and listen to the conversations with people who are, have been there, done it, that kind of chapter's closed. But I also love kind of getting in the trenches with people and being like, okay, well, where are you at with it? Because it's a lot
Yeah.
more real. And,
Yeah.
you know, I listen to thousands of podcasts in my life, and the amount of times that I've like just been so far away from the person that
Mm,
you're listening to, it's
mm,
just really disheartening. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's aspirational, but I
yeah.
don't know how to
Bridge the gap. Yeah.
bridge the gap exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about your journey. So you very very helpfully sent me over a bit of a timeline of like you and what you've been up to over the last few years, and there's
hmm
definitely lots of stuff that I want to get into. So take me back to like your first kind of major point
Mm.
back in Ireland.
Yeah, I actually always start this from the year I moved from Ireland, which is 5 years ago now, to Abu Dhabi, to the UAE. Before that, I was just I was a qualified primary school teacher. I was working in my job, living a really content, happy life. But I guess the reason I start with my move to Abu Dhabi is because that is literally the starting point from the snowball effect of what's happened since that. And ultimately, it's nothing major, but it was more so like I had this moment where I was like, I am just felt like a hamster in a trundle wheel, just living day to day, one day to the next. And it was like someone just removed the like blinkers that I have on my eyes, and just something hit me that was like, I think you're just following the flow right now, and there was so much more that you need to grab. But if you keep going the way you're going, you're never going to get there. And I guess I look back on it now and think maybe it was the first point in my life where I ever experienced like an anxiety, because at the time I wasn't aware of it. It was nearly like this pressure on my chest and this like, I can't keep up, nearly like I was drowning a little bit in the chaos of life around me. And I made one simple decision back then, and it was so powerful, but it was literally that Sundays are for me. And I said that to the world. I said it to my friends. I said to my family. I said, I need time. I need space. I don't know what's going on. And I picked Sundays as my day, and nobody contacted me. Nobody asked me to make any plans. And I would just like nearly disappear on a Sunday. And I guess that's from then on in where I started meditating, and I started, like, for the first time in my entire life, actually listening to my own body and my own thoughts and that inner world. And I think one thing has led to the next. And here I am 5 years later. But a pivotal point for me was I signed up to a meditation challenge. It was called 21 Days to Find Yourself or something. And it was run by someone that I really look up to, Sinead Hegarty. And
Okay,
it's yeah,
I
it's
know
so
Sinead.
funny.
Yeah,
Do you know Sinead?
yeah,
Yeah. So it's actually so funny that 5 years later this year, I've started working for her platform, The Brave Way, which is her meditation app that I actually started with back before I knew anything about anything. And yeah, it's funny. It's a full circle moment for me to have come back around to that again. So yeah, I guess that was the starting point for me.
amazing. And I love kind of going into the run up
Mm,
Obviously, you made the decision to jump on this challenge, right?
mhm.
So how did talk to me about kind of the way you were at before then,
Yeah.
and like what thoughts and everything was kind of running through your head. Like, where were you at? Were you looking to make a change? Was it something that was like really at the forefront of your mind, or it was just a bit of a, oh, I'll just do it?
Yeah, I was really like I don't know, I was really kind of happy-go-lucky. I was happy, like, it wasn't like a point where I hit a rock bottom or anything. I was really, really happy with my friends, with my job. But do you know when you just get this, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like this urge of just wanting more. And it was just this like, I don't know, I guess I can only call it maybe an inner knowing where it was like, I just need to create a little bit of space because at the minute, it's just day to day. I'm running from one day to the next with absolutely no awareness of where I'm going or where I even want to go. So I can't say it was anything. I do remember feeling like that panic in my like a little. Sometimes it was like an overwhelm, maybe like a just an overwhelm of oh I can't keep up, and I'm like panicking in my chest, and I didn't really know what to do with that. But yeah, so I don't have like a big moment, but I guess it was just this like inner knowing and this like longing to just get to know myself a bit better. Like, what do I actually want to do with my life as opposed to just from school? I just think you run from one thing to the next, and then you're qualified, and then you're in your job, and then you're traveling and you're going out. And it was just this complete like wanting to just be a bit more aware of where I'm going.
Yeah, totally. And I think
Yeah.
that traditional school, college, uni, job, like it's very well, obviously, it's very well trodden path, but it's not going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
And I know that I forced myself into that cycle, and some of it you don't necessarily have a choice of,
Mm,
with obviously school and stuff like that. But like, I took a year out. I went to uni, and then was back home within 6 weeks.
yeah.
Like, was very much not my path. And
Yeah.
it was weird to see the people that I started university with graduate, because I was like, that could have been
Yeah.
me. I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
be further removed from had been th- further removed than I was in that
Yeah.
precise second in
Yeah.
time. So it's crazy
Yeah.
how that sort of stuff works from there. So you're doing the challenge.
Mm,
You do your 20.
yes.
You said it's 21 days.
21 days. Yeah.
21 days meditation, all of that good
Hmm.
stuff. And what kind of changed for you within that journey? What breakthroughs did you have? What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself?
Mm. I think the biggest thing was like, I think it was career for me at that point. That was kind of the biggest thing that was jumping out for me was that I was a person that I loved helping people and I loved, I would, I'd volunteer a lot outside of teaching. I would work with different organizations. And I always had this thing that like your job was your job and then your passions are everything that exists around your job on the outside, like in your spare time. And I just remember something so clearly hitting me was like, why can't you just combine the both? Like, why can't you just have your job be the thing that you actually love doing as well in your spare time? And it doesn't have to be the job over here and everything else you do over here. And I think it was the very first time that I was like, am I in this career because I actually want to be or because I've just followed a path that was kind of laid out for me. So that was when I started, it opened up a can of worms then because it opened up that feeling of, what do I want to be? I don't know. But that was when I kind of started with a mindset coach. I started with a life coach and it was just to help me figure that out. But in doing that, I actually realized, wow, I actually love doing this. This is kind of, I want to become this as well. So yeah, it was definitely for me, it was the career that at that time, like that was jumping out at me the most, that it was just like I don't feel that sense of fulfillment or enjoyment in my career anymore.
Yeah, amazing. And I
Yeah.
think that calling comes to people a lot more regularly
Mm,
than people let on. And
yeah.
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it really is.
I remember, and I can remember it as clear as day, I've done countless keynotes on that day, that singular day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I kind of had this realization. I was in the fitness industry, been personal training. It's just who I was. And
Mm,
I just suddenly had this realization that this has to end now.
yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I couldn't just sit there and be like, that's me done, or take a week or take a month off and just come back to it. It was so weird. It was
Mm,
so mental. Like, I look back at it now, and call it what you want, but that was terrifying. And I remember
Yeah.
I was by myself all day, and then when I finally like met with my partner, she's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "No," like I'd seen a ghost, and the ghost was the truth. Don't get me wrong, I didn't handle it in a very very good way, and I'm
Yeah.
still probably dealing with the shockwaves of that now. It's what,
Mm,
2.5 years later. Like
mm,
it's hard. It's so hard.
yeah. It's like a crumbling of your identity, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so kind of magical in the same
Hmm.
way. Maybe I'm just a sucker for punishment. But
Yeah.
but yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. So you have this realization that something in your career needs to change. Now, what
Yeah.
was the next step for you
Yeah.
rather than lose your head like I did?
Yeah. It was like something needs to change. Now, when like it's such a hard one, people tell you go follow your dreams and like, follow whatever career you want. But what obviously with your career, with your job come finances, and it's something that you can't just avoid. And in my head, I was thinking, right, if I step away from teaching, I am going to need to go back studying, but then where am I going to find the finances to like, to maintain that or to afford that? So in my head, I decided to move countries. Again, I think it was maybe just as well. I was coming back through my meditations. I was like, what do I love? I love nature. I love being around. Like, that's what gives me mental clarity. And I was living in the UAE, which is an extremely busy, like, full of people. And I would say lacking a lot of just natural beauty. And, I was just lacking that for me. So I actually moved to Australia, which I don't know, I just felt a calling to, I guess, in that time. I was just like, I love the beach. I love being near the beach. I need that right now for my clarity. So that was the first step I made. And I was really like, I am really determined person. So when I put my mind to something, I go there and I was like, I want to go back studying and it's going to cost me thousands. So I need to make money. So what I did is I actually moved to the mines. I moved over to Western Australia.
Okay.
And I did something, I think this is actually, it's funny that I'm speaking about this because I think there was two things to this. There was number one, I need to make money. And the mines in Australia is one of the quickest ways to make money fast. But also, I think a part of me wanted to prove that I could do like hard things, that I could do things out of my comfort zone. And for me, like I'm from the countryside, but I have no farming experience. I have no experience of driving big machinery. This couldn't be further removed from my comfort zone. And I worked on the mines for 6 months and I earned enough money that I could give up my job for the other 6 months of the year and I could go back into studying mindset, studying everything that is kind of emotional health, everything that's kind of that I'm qualified in now. So yeah, that was a big move, but it was a pivotal point as well for me in my journey.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
like I used to have a client that worked in the mines, and it's
Okay.
savage.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
fly in, fly out. But when you're out,
Yeah.
you are like put to work.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. It's crazy. It was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks on, like no break, 12 hours every single day. You're completely removed from everyone and everything. You're out in the middle of nowhere. But like that, everything's covered for you, your food, your stay, absolutely everything. So it meant that I could just really focus on, I suppose, yeah, earning the money. And I think as well, a part of me was just like, I was just so proud of myself after it. I think that gave me such a boost. I was like, well, if I could do that, I could do anything. Because it was just so, yeah, so far removed from my comfort zone. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a few things in there. Like I love what you said about, if I can do this, if I can survive this, because it's not pleasant. But for it not being pleasant, you then comes everything else, the financial
Strength. Yeah.
benefit. But like for me, the biggest thing, and when it comes to changing lanes, when it comes to making these big decisions, like for so many people, the financials are the sticking point. And like personally, I'm not someone who has the best relationship with money, but I know for a lot of people that's probably the same sort of thing. And like it is stressful. It is something that is a massive barrier. And oh, if I had X thousand in the bank, I could do, and it would make it easier. And
Yeah.
you have all of these things that we can talk about, and the vehicle to make it so much easier. So I love that you said that, because again, one of my big things when I started all of this was to talk about the stuff that nobody talks about, and
Mm,
unfortunately, the financials are really important, and nobody talks
yeah.
about it. It's ugly. You
Yeah.
don't talk about, certainly in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know so much in Ireland, but people
Yes.
don't talk about money. You don't talk about, you don't moan about it. You just crack on,
Hmm.
and that's kind of it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So you've done your 6 months in the mines. You're going into studying mindset, personal development, emotional health, all of that good stuff. What happens next?
I had a big, so I suppose I walked away from teaching then. That was my, like, I left it and I was like, I'm going to go full in on this. So yeah, my first protocol was mindset through NLP.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first thing. And I did 2 courses there. I did UK based life coaching, personal performance coaching course that took me 2 years. And I did NLP then alongside that, which took me the guts of a year. And so that was all together in 2 years. And I came out from that and I essentially like qualified myself as a mindset coach. And I started up my mindset coaching business, which was literally at the time, what I thought I was so called to do. But I think, and this is a big part of changing lanes as well, is that like sometimes you put so much into something and you start it and you think that is going to be it and it doesn't work. And that's what led to one of the biggest breakdowns that I've had. Yeah, ever. Because I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean I've put all this of years? I've studied, I've spent thousands. Like there was lots of other just little courses as well on the way. I've left my job now. I'm in a country the other side of the world and this isn't working. And yeah, that kind of led to a big pit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And like a lot of what you're talking about is, I'm very much resonating with what you're saying straight away. And
Hmm.
I think like, you know, you, that's something that I'm dealing with at the moment is this kind of like, okay, well, this is it. This is like, this is it.
Mm,
This will
yeah.
solve it. And,
Yeah.
something that I've grown quite a lot of awareness of is the fact that one thing doesn't solve all things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like coming to that realization, and I think the word is probably devastating. You get to
Yeah.
the point that you're like, what do you mean that this isn't it?
Yeah.
This isn't
Yeah.
this. And, like I know when I stopped in the fitness industry, I was like, what do you mean that this isn't what I'm supposed to do? Like
Yeah.
that particular career, I personally feel like it's got a shelf life and it will naturally expire for some sooner rather than later. But I thought I had probably a little bit more time in the bank, a bit more credit in the bank, and then things would just nicely step on to the next thing. And here we go, like everything nice and easy breezy. But unfortunately, and it sounds like for you that didn't work out. So take me back to that time. I know it's probably not the nicest thing in the world to talk about, but talk to me about.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Well, like the way I like to look at these things, and it's like I'm saying right now, it didn't work out, but I think this is like the irony of life is that you have got to live it forward blindly. And at that time, I was thinking, oh my God, this isn't working out. But now I'm looking back on it and thinking, well, it actually was. It wasn't what I had planned at that time. And like, I feel like it is that irony that life only makes sense in reverse. But at that time, yeah. So to rewind back to that time first, I suppose everything started crumbling then. My relationship, my long-term relationship was falling apart. My visa with that relationship came that my visa in Australia was running out. And I was ultimately thinking, I don't know where to go now. It's nearly like I've thrown everything at this. And it was like, from the outside, I'd say people wouldn't realize how big of a situation this was because I was running my mindset workshops in Sydney. I had one-to-one clients. I was ultimately living the dream, I guess, what people would say. But I knew it wasn't working. Like I knew there was something massively missing. And as I said, things around me were kind of falling apart, my relationship, my visa, everything. So I took off to Bali by myself. And like a lot of people who are
John
lost
Guns,
and
get the elephant hats on.
and again, I didn't really want to go to Bali. I had like a whole trip planned to New Zealand with my boyfriend at the time. And I had this huge event coming up in Sydney as as a mindset coach. And everything was like, it was nearly like, I just couldn't understand why my visa was falling through, why things were falling through for me. So at the time, Bali didn't make any sense. But I suppose what happened in Bali then was like honestly so incredible. And it started off with me literally sat in my room and there was so many nights of me crying. I was so lonely, like I didn't know what to do with myself. And I signed up to my first ever somatic session. And, somatic, for anyone who, because I didn't understand that term for ages, somatic is your body. And it's essentially everything that's irrelevant from your mind. So at the time, I was obviously so in the mindset business. I understood the mindset tools, the tricks, the psychology behind things. But I had never done any work from the neck down, say, which is the somatic work, the body work. And I signed up to a random class in Canggu, and that day I was probably the only day in my life ever where I just never got out of bed, and I was in bed the entire day and I was scrolling on my phone. And I remember this certificate popped up on my phone, and it was so and so has qualified in emotional health and shadow work coaching. And I was like, what is that? I was like, and I clicked on the girl's Instagram page, and it was actually the girl that I had booked in with. I was like, that name looks familiar. And I checked my emails, and it was actually the class that I booked in to that night was that girl. I hadn't even followed her or anything. Like, this is why it was so strange. So I said, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about this. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to go to this class and I'm going to talk to her. So I went to the class, I talked to her. She said, let's go for coffee the next day. We went for coffee the next day, and we spent like 8 hours together that day. We just like clicked, and she was telling me everything got to do with emotional health. And in my head, it was like, this is what's missing from my life personally, but also my life as a professional, as a coach. I just knew it. And she put me in touch with David, who was the owner and founder of Home of Self-Transformation, which is where she qualified with. And yeah, lo and behold, I am forking out more money and I am signing up to another course. But that was the one that honestly changed me and like has literally brought me to where I am now. And it's the work that I do and I'm so passionate in. So yeah, it's amazing. Like that Bali was the worst thing that ever could have happened to me and the best thing at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And like you hear so
Yeah.
many stories about like people from Europe, they go to Australia, they need to go to Bali to just do the visa run, get out of the country to come back in and reset, blah, blah, blah. I'm not too sure on how that works exactly. Maybe one day. But
Exciting.
but we, like we hear so many stories about that. And basically it's just partying on the beach, all of that good stuff, maybe a bit of Muay Thai, and then my brunch is basically the experience of Bali that you see. And it's usually people from Australia or people doing the visa run, right? But I think it's one of those places that just seems so, I've heard so many stories about these just kind of like magical moments and things that come
Yeah.
out of a place like that. And
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons that I wanted to get you on, was to explore not only your story, but kind of get into these things around like the shadow work and somatic and stuff
Mm.
like that. Like I probably feel a little bit of a calling for it myself.
Really? Oh,
So,
yeah.
as in,
Okay.
like, I want to know more. So there's an element in it where it's just really selfish, and I'm like, teach me your ways. But it's also something that fascinates me. So I've like dabbled with a bit of like, have you ever heard of Debbie Ford?
Yes, I have, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I've definitely heard of her. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, when I went on holiday last year, I was listening to one of her books, Dark Side of the Light Chasers. I think it was that one. And then it got to the point I was like, I'm going to listen to this book on holiday, and I was a little bit lax with it. Got to the point of just this random point, and it hit me, and it was this thing that I absolutely needed to hear, and that was just kind of like, okay, I've got that. That's everything that I need to know, and I can walk away happy from that. But I'd love to kind of explore the idea of this like shadow work.
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what is that to someone who's never heard of it before?
Yeah. Ultimately, like emotional health and shadow work come together in the sense that it's a lot like I honestly love mindset work. I think it's amazing. I think it's got such a strong place and it's like so powerful for people. However, I think it's massively lacking in something, and that's what I couldn't understand for ages. And it is this shadow work and deep emotional healing. And the reason I say that is that you can understand everything. You can understand how to create habits. You can understand your nervous system. You can understand your wounds. You can understand every single thing that has happened to you in your childhood. And, we live in this era at the minute where we're so connected to information. All you have to do is, ask AI anything, and we've got information on social media. So information is there and we can understand it massively and logically up here. But there is a massive disconnect then when it comes to the actual emotional side of things. And I suppose like I always like to work in like concrete examples. If you're someone who feels not good enough, like a lot of us do, and you struggle with this wound of like, I'm not good enough. And I sit down with you and I give you the mindset tools and the tricks to like, and the affirmations, and you understand your childhood and you understand why you feel like not good enough and this, that, and the other. And then the next thing, you are in a relationship and all of a sudden your like boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner, they're on a night out and they've stopped texting you back. And all of a sudden you go into like, your heart's racing. You're thinking, oh my God, like I think this because they're with someone else. I bet they're going to leave me. Like and you're panicking. You've got a sick feeling in your tummy and you can't concentrate on work or nothing. Like that is something that no amount of logic or understanding is going to fix. That is like a wound that you have got deeply stored in your cells, like on a cellular level, on an emotional level. It's conditioned, it's there. And essentially what shadow work and emotional health does, it goes back to those moments and times, those pains, those traumas where we have pushed away and suppressed parts of us that we don't want to feel, that have been too hurtful. The time when our dad left us when we were younger, or the time when we were rejected by the love of our lives and abandoned, or the time that we lost a family member and we didn't know how to deal with that. And that lives within our body. And that ultimately is the work of shadow work and of emotional health. It's just to go there, to go to the parts of us that we really have pushed so deep down because we didn't know how to deal with them. Yeah.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong. This is more just for my clarity and understanding. Is that when you go, there's like a traumatic experience. You're like, I can't recall anything from like when it happened. Is that
Yes.
sort of thing?
Yeah, and because our body, our mind, and that's what our mind will do. Like our mind has got our best interest at heart. It blocks it removes what's been painful. Like, so every single call I get on with a client, I'll always say, how was your childhood? And everyone say, oh, great. An amazing childhood. Loved my childhood. Yeah, brilliant. Because you have blocked and suppressed the parts of your childhood that were painful, that you don't want to remember. And then that's when you use the somatic tools like breath work, Reiki, meditation, all those things that actually take you out of that conscious memory and take you into your implicit memory, which is your memory that's stored in your cells, in your body, in the form of pain or wound or trauma.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So how, obviously, like I said, one of the things that you obviously do your course out in Bali and you get put into contact. But talk to me about the experience that you had
Mm.
with, obviously only what you feel comfortable sharing with, but what what sort of breakthroughs
Yeah.
and changes did you kind of notice off the back of that?
Yeah, it's funny because like I would have been the first person to say to you, like, I'm just so happy in life. I'm so happy. And like I always am the type of happy-go-lucky person. Nothing seems to really faze me. I kind of was, yeah. And then it's so funny. I was like, this whole box was opened.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. Holy shit, like I didn't realize I'm carrying all this. And one of the first things, and this will probably maybe help explain shadow work a little bit more as well, is I remember my coach. So this program that I went on, you had to go through it as a client first, and you had to go on a massive journey before they even thought about training you. It wasn't one of those quick certificates that you get that you can just do a quick course and you become a coach. They were like, no, no, no. If you're going to become a coach in this, you have got to live it and you've got to experience it and you've got to go through in that journey. So it was incredible. So anyways, one of the very first things my coach said to me when I signed up to this program was like, yeah, I want to help people and I want to do this. I want to become this coach that helps people and blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, he was like, Roisin, do you realize you're giving to get? And I remember and I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh yeah, so would you say you're a generous person? And I was like, yes, I love like giving. I'm one of those people that pour my energy out to others. I love helping. And the very first shadow of my own that I uncovered was that you are giving to get. And that means that you are giving yourself away in order to make you feel a certain way that you don't feel within yourself. So I think a lot of us have this that are in the healing space. It's like we need to feel like we are needed, or like we want to help people so that we feel worthy enough of ourselves. And that was huge for me. I literally had to take a step back and be like, yeah, like I don't feel worthy in myself. And this is why I can't sit still. I can't rest without feeling guilty. I can never feel like I've done enough. I feel like I've got to always be running and going and achieving and doing and, and it's like so many people are operating from that space. And what they don't realize is there's a real deep wound there, a shadow of Well, if you took all that away, you don't actually feel good enough in yourself. And that was the first thing that I had to go into that I never realized I even had, because I was just masking behind this whole giving persona and helping other people. And so, like, you can see then how that opens a whole can of worms.
You go through that. Now, that's a fundamental truth about that you believe about yourself, right?
Hmm.
And that's no longer true.
Yeah.
And that's obviously something that's very hard to deal with.
Mm,
And like how, again, obviously as much as you can go into, but like how do you start to deal with that process of, I'm going into it, I'm going into, I now have found this thing out about myself. I've opened the Pandora's box. The Pandora's box,
mm,
true change. It seems like a great
mm.
idea. Then you open it and you're like, well, why did I do that? Now I know better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't shut it again. And you just
Yeah.
can't, no matter how hard, can't force it back in the box. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that kind of like time. So you have this major realization about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, again, that's where it kind of goes from knowing it up here to actually feeling it. And I was made aware of that up here. But my next thing was to actually grieve the sadness that's behind that. And for so many people, there is a real sadness behind the fact that you don't believe you're good enough and you have to constantly prove your worth. And that's exhausting. And that's why you're so exhausted and you're burnt out and you attract these relationships over and over again, because it's essentially mirroring what you feel within yourself. And it's to grief. And that's where then you have a coach that's going to help you go into the part of you. Like, it could be a 7-year-old version of you, it could be a 3-year-old version of you. It's a whatever version of you that in that moment something happened in your life and you have made that about you and you've made it wrong about you. And from that moment, you decided that you were not enough. You were not worthy enough. You were not beautiful enough. You were not smart enough. You were not successful enough. You were not whatever it is. And you made that your thing and you now live with that and you project from that space. And it's to actually really just grieve the sadness that's behind that. And that's where then you're guided by your shadow work coach, emotional health coach, to go into that memory and to go into that part of you, that version of you that lives. They could live in your heart, they could live in your back, your shoulders, your stomach, wherever they live, and to actually reparent or just go back to that version and actually be there with him or her and to be sad with her and to make her realize that it's okay and to go back and tell her what needs to be told and to, maybe it's a loss of someone and an absence of someone. Maybe they needed a hug. Maybe they needed to just be heard in that moment. Maybe they just, like, whatever it is. It's so subjective and there's so many ways you can take it, but it's to really feel that and not just talk about it, but to actually like really feel that. And it's heavy and it's sad and it can be really, really hard. But when you felt that version of you, it's like, it's the most freeing thing. And, even just something as small as that wound of I'm not good enough, when you start to realize that, yes, you weren't good enough, like you didn't feel good enough in that moment, you're not scared of it anymore. So you get to take down the walls of trying to, like, I think a lot of the time we're running from our own fear. We're like, well, I'm not good enough, so I don't want to be found out that I'm not good enough, so I just have to be extra smart and I have to, put across this persona that I've got everything together. And it's like, when you've actually met that part of yourself, it gets rid of the fear. It's like you've got nothing to hide anymore. You're okay with it within yourself. So therefore, no matter what job opportunities say, no matter what the next relationship says to you, no matter what your friends say to you, it's not going to crush you and knock you down because you've met it. So it's so freeing. It's like, and that is just one example, but there's so many other examples of where your body holds these conditionings. And when you actually become okay, it's like you just become unstoppable. You've nothing to hide from. Like, there's nothing to hold you back anymore. There's nothing to scare you anymore. Yeah, it's incredible.
There's parts of that sound so appealing, but there's also parts that sound like that's
It's
not
tough.
that's really
It's
tough.
really hard. It is, like, it is. But I think it's so much easier than going down the path of avoidance, which is keeping you stuck in the cycles that you're stuck in over and over again for the rest of your, and will be stuck in for the rest of your life. And I just know I'd rather go through that than, and than to try and just being like, people think, oh, it's just if I get fitter, if I just get healthier, then I'll look better and I'll feel good enough. So I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to kill myself in the gym, I'm going to go on these diets. Or they think, oh, it's actually if I just get this other job, so I'm just going to leave this job and get the next job. But then you still feel the same in the next job, and then you're trying to get the next job. Or they jump from relationship to relationship, and it's like, that's exhausting. Like, that is so tiring.
Yeah, and Do you know what you're talking? You're verbalizing a lot of what I've been thinking and feeling recently. This is
Really?
very off
Wow.
script, and
Yeah, no, of
that's very
course.
weird. And like I said, it's I use the more terminology of like, oh, I'm going through the same loops.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
then there's part of it where there's like an awareness of the loop. So you try to fight the loop, but the loop always wins.
exactly. Yeah. It's tiring.
And it's like I had it once. Someone once said it to me that like you can fight reality, but reality will always win.
Yes. I love that.
And I mean, I think the person who said that was a very throwaway comment from them, but like I think it's so true that you know you get caught in these loops, and like the reality is unfortunately that so many people live in these loops forever and they never find out, which is which is sad, but like yeah, interesting. Now I want to go back to what you said about you were this generous person giving, but ultimately you were given to receive. Now how does that now show up for you? Is that something that you don't do, or do you still do it?
No, and
Like the channel
yeah.
was slightly different.
I think that's what people are scared. They're scared of losing. Like that's a part of me that I never would want to lose, and it's a part of me that I love. But where I'm operating from is different. And again, I'm going to come back to what I said at the start of this. I'm not speaking at this from an expert. This is very much like I went through that journey 2 years ago, and I'm still noticing. Like it's like I'm still not fully there over it because I still go back into my old cycles. But I am so much more understanding and compassionate with myself than I ever would have been before. Of course I give. Of course I still it's one of the things that give me like so much joy, but it's not coming from this place of pressure of have to, of if I stop for a second, it's all going to fall apart. One of the biggest things that this journey has brought for me is trust in just knowing that like everything is going to work out exactly how it's supposed to be. And people say that, but I don't know, do they really feel it? And that is a feeling like if I could just bottle that up the way I feel that so deeply and give it to someone, I just wish I could, because right now I've just moved back countries again. So I'm just back in Ireland, and there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with that. But it's like I've just got this sense of calm in knowing that it's all going to work out. Whereas before, I would have come in from a really controlling place of I've gotta show up in this, and I've got to make sure that this works out, and lists, and like it's like you're trying to control everything out there so that you feel okay in here. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've gotten from it. It's just that peace. So it's not like I don't have to give myself, I don't have to wear myself so thin. I can just show up where I feel more aligned and where I want to pour my energy to, as to feeling I need to pour it everywhere and just hope for the best and just hope it's going to all work out. And I think that's like, it's a very hard thing to put into words. Like, it's a really hard thing to actually verbalize or like help people understand. But it's just such this deep feeling that no matter what happens out there, I've got me and I'm going to be okay. And yeah.
I think you have verbalized that so eloquently, like
Okay.
very much like that. I feel like I not get it, because I think there's a real depth for that,
Mm,
like to truly get something. But like
yeah.
I'm very much understanding where you're coming from. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And kind of talk to me. So you start to go through this process of
Yeah.
doing the somatic work, doing the shadow work. So tell me a little bit more about kind of what happens next. How do you then make, you've come from this real trough, uh,
Mm,
the breakdown, break up, all of that kind of, I was gonna say good stuff, not good,
yeah.
quite the opposite actually.
Yeah.
You kind of come from this deep trough, kind of to rise back up into, this level of peace and kind of like living out what you believe is true, rather
Yeah.
than just like, oh, well, this is the right thing and
Hmm.
pursuing for pursuing's sake, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose what happened next is, well, this kind of takes you up to like quite recent in my life. So I've only kind of qualified within the last, I went through that as a client first, and then I went through it as a coach. So I started up then my emotional health in Sydney. I moved back to Sydney and I started up there. And one of the best things that happened to me was a studio. I was approached by a studio, and a studio asked me to be a part of their studio. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is amazing, because all I've ever wanted is a space. Like now I've got a space where I can actually like bring people into my world. And but also that was scary, because it was like, right, I have to show up now. I've got it. Like there's no like, before I was running my mindset things, I was like, oh, I'll do a session next Tuesday. But then if I didn't feel like doing one for 2 weeks, I might not. And whereas this was like, you're showing up every week. At the start, it was every 2 weeks. Then it was every week. Then it was 2 hours a week. And it grew and grew. And I was part of a space and part of a community. So I started running my emotional health sessions. Now, some were like deep emotional releasing sessions where we were kind of going into pains and traumas that we're holding. And others were just down-regulated breath work ones to bring people back into presence, into peace, into relaxation. So it just gave me an opportunity to like really explore this work and to bring people along with me and learn what worked and what didn't work. And yeah, it was amazing. So I started running my group sessions in Sydney, and then I started running like through that. Then people got a glimpse into it and started taking on one-to-one clients then. I don't know, in comparison to when I was doing the mindset, I just felt so like, okay, now I've got it. Now I've got all the tools that I need to just help someone. It was funny. It was actually like it's like in my previous relationship that made me realize like that sometimes when you are relying on a client to show up on a screen like you are right now, and you're relying on them to talk and to tell you what's going on in their life, sometimes the person you're speaking to just doesn't have the ability to do that, doesn't have the awareness or the understanding to know what's even going on with them. And I found that in my last relationship, sometimes like when I'd be having conversations with my boyfriend or with my friends, it's like there's a massive block here, because I want to help them, but I can't, like that person isn't even able to relate to me and then, or to communicate what they need from me. And I'm not even able to communicate and insert that back into their body. And I don't know, this sounds so strange, but I was just like, I just noticed what that block was. And I was like, now to have the tools to allow someone to go into their subconscious, to their like body, and to actually like not rely on words as much anymore has been so powerful in my one-to-one sessions, because it takes the pressure off me and of the person showing up to be able to verbalize everything, which I think is a massive block when it comes to like some talk therapies. And it's just you're relying on language to put across something that can be so much deeper than language.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, so anyways, basically I felt so much more aligned with what I was doing. And yeah, I continued to live my life in Sydney until I suppose I got this really deep inner knowing that I needed to come home. And in the last couple of weeks, and I've just made that move now back to Ireland and just transitioning everything back here and trying to figure out, basically restart again now and figure out how I'm going to do it all back home here. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Interesting. And I
Yeah.
mean, that kind of one of my questions, and that I've written down here about the whole coming back to Ireland thing, and kind of coming back, the idea of coming back home, like a lot of people would see that as potentially a step backwards,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
the optics look shit, if that makes sense. So like, let's say that I went to school with you and then I saw on Instagram you're living up in Bali, you're cutting about in the UAE, you're living that Oz lifestyle, then all of a sudden you're back around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the optics, like if I saw someone, there's that natural thing of like, well, what up in there then? Kind of,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So like, how have you kind of dealt with that? Because surely there's a lot of kind of
Yeah.
optics that are particularly challenging. Like, have you had any kind of like feelings or thoughts about
Mm,
self-belief? Like, have I done the right thing? Is this like how much of this actually is a failure? Is
yeah.
failure, if that makes sense? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny you said that, because actually I think that's what so many, like I think you actually said what I feel like so many people have been thinking. I can see by their expressions. And, people are like, but you loved it there. But why are you home? Like, what is going on? And I did love it there. Like, I absolutely loved my life over there. And I was so sad to leave. And I think this is what probably the biggest lesson that I've learned in changing lanes or in transitioning is that opposite emotions, just because, how do I phrase this? Just because something doesn't feel good doesn't mean it's the wrong decision. Did I say that right? So just because something doesn't feel good doesn't mean that it's the wrong decision. And what I mean by that is that I am so sad to have left. I've left people behind. I've left opportunities behind. I've left country behind, which feels really deeply sad, like really, really sad. I've cried about it so much and I never thought I'd get attached, but I have. But it comes back to this intuition and this inner trust and something that I have become, and I was not good at this at all before because I was never present. I was always rushing, next thing, chaos. I've become really good at tuning into my own intuition and my own trust. And I can't really give you a concrete example of why this section is going to work out because I don't know, I've just moved home, but I have got this such an inner knowing and this trust that like I'm actually just meant to be here at the minute, even though it doesn't really make sense from the outside. But I suppose that what I can say is actually I'm just back from London there at the weekend. And again, this was an opportunity that was given to me just when I came home. And it was a huge opportunity that I got to be flown over to London and work at this huge wellness event over there. And I suppose like it's little things like that that I just am trusting is going to start happening for me in my move. And like that was a real big one for me. And I got to represent the coaching platform that I qualified with through Host, through emotional health that I was saying in Bali. And I got to work for them. And I think I just trust. I don't know. I really don't know. Like I might be eating my words in a couple of months and be like, oh, I'm back to Sydney. But right now, I really trust that I'm meant to be here, and I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's because people ask me that all the time. Why did you come home? And it's so hard for me to answer that. I don't know. I just know, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that makes
totally.
sense.
And that was like I think it's such an interesting thing because sometimes you just like get these knowing senses
Yeah.
that kind of come from nowhere, and you're like, or some things might happen that give you a bit of a sort of nudge in that direction. And you're
Yeah.
just like, no, it doesn't make sense. You
Yeah.
kind of just sort of like shun it somewhat and be like, no, that's not right. And yeah, I think it's like I said, it's that level of trust. But I guess
Trust.
that's the hard thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's no evidence. Like I have nothing to say. Like, oh well, it's all worked out for me, or like it's. I don't have that right now to say, and I don't have that to tell my family who are kind of wondering what's going on, and I don't have that to show anyone. But I think it comes back to like literally what I was saying before, in that like I just. I've just got such an inner knowing and inner trust that like it's going to work out. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Certainly. And something that I've noticed, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's kind of this like absence of fear,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the whole, making a decision, no matter how big or small it is. Like there's this level of like, oh, do I, don't I? Your amygdala's in overdrive of like, I've got to
Mhm.
keep this person safe, which is essential job.
Mm,
And
mm,
we spend so much time kind of like I'm in and are in and do I, don't I, is that the right thing to do? Questioning every conceivable possible angle. And yeah, it's something that, like you said there is so yeah. Like that was one of the things when you were talking, I was like, she's not scared. Like there isn't that level of
yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
which is very interesting.
Yeah, I guess it, and I guess maybe it's just a different relationship with fear as well. It's like I am scared. I am scared, but it's like it doesn't hold me back. It's like that, like you can be scared. Like fear is such an important thing that exists within humans and it does keep us safe and it keeps us like, from doing things that are gonna hurt us ultimately. But it's like when it's holding you back, when it's stopping you from doing anything or acting at all, like that, like what you were saying, that like living in that middle ground of will I, won't I, la la la. Like I don't believe that there's ever such thing anymore as a failure, because when I think back to that point in my life where I had failed, ultimately, it was the best, like it's the reason why I'm here doing what I do. I just don't see that like anymore. I see that no matter what decision I make, it's going to either show me a part of myself that needs to be shown. It's going to teach me a lesson. It's going to, like, I do really just believe in that. But yeah, so I guess it's just having that different relationship with fear, like seeing it there, like, wow, I feel so scared right now, but leaning into it anyway, being okay to navigate that, not run away from it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think as well, like something else I wanted to kind of touch on as well before we kind of finished as well was like lots of points in your journey are about, pivots and making moves, changing lanes, however you want to call it. And it's so important. And what kind of words of wisdom would you give? Would you, what like words of advice, whatever you want to call it, would you give to someone who is kind of feeling that they are at that crossroads or roundabout? I don't know how complicated the choices
Yeah.
are.
I think it's like, I think if you want, if you're at the decision point in your life, if you're at the crossroads, as you said, I think what a lot of us do is we try and find the answers or like come up with the solutions before we've taken the leap. And I think life is kind of challenging us sometimes to take the leap and trust that the answers will come then after. I think if you're waiting on the answers to come before you take the leap, that's when you're living in this limbo land of like procrastination, of just nowhere, like you're just kind of floating, I guess. And it's just to take the leap and to trust in the, like, I don't know, whatever that quote is about the bird and jumping and the branches, whatever, the
Yeah,
bird doesn't
yeah,
land on a branch, whatever it is. But it's like just taking the leap and trusting that the answers will come then. And, and I think that brings you out of that future thinking and brings you back to presence. And in presence is when you're going to get your intuition. That's where your body is going to speak to you. That's when, like, if you can come back as much as possible to the present moment that you're in right now, that's when you're going to get the signs, the feelings, the little nudges. Oh, I should do this, I should do that. And that's what you should trust. If you're running away with, oh, but what happens next and da 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 da, or back in the past with, well, last time I did this and this happened. And like, if you're living in the future or in the past, I just think you're making it so much harder on yourself. So just trying to bringing yourself back to presence and to what's happening right now, and to just trust in that intuition and that inner knowing and know that it's going to be okay. Like, even if it doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. And just get into that place of like, no matter what happens, I'm going to be here for me and I'm going to navigate my way through it and I'll deal with it then. So does that make sense? Is that a bit of a ramble?
no, it totally does, and I think
Yeah.
that's such an amazing place to kind of end or start wrapping things up, I should say.
Yeah.
What's next for you? What's on the agenda?
I just want to bring this work back to, yeah, to home. I think over the summer now, I really want to open up spaces in around Ireland that allow people to experience. Like, I do really think this work is so experiential and like you've got to experience it instead of just speaking about it. So I want to create spaces around Ireland. I'm in the middle of working with like different studios and different like wellness industries in Ireland to put together a program over the next couple of months where people can just come and experience this work and experience like, wow, I've got energy in my body. Wow, I'm able to move it. Wow, these emotions, I'm able to tune in just without a big commitment, without this big signing up to a program or to like, do anything. I just really want to create those spaces online as well. So not just in person in Ireland, it'd be amazing, but also online for people that are listening that aren't in Ireland. Yeah, just to let people experience what I'm talking about instead of just like hearing it. So that's ultimately my next thing now. I'm just going to be publishing releasing some dates over the next while where people can just come and just feel the impacts of this work and, yeah, tune back into presence. Like what I was just saying there, it's easier said than done. So to really be held and to be supported and to be, yeah, guided, I suppose, in that journey.
Amazing,
Yeah.
lovely stuff. So
Thank you.
people come check you out and see what you're doing, and if they want to get on board, then that door's always open, right?
Yeah, Instagram is kind of where I'm at right now. I am like working on renewing my website and different things at the moment. But again, it's all in transition. So at the moment, Instagram is kind of where I'm at. And then everything else will just be released from there.
Amazing, thank you so much.
Yeah. You're so welcome.